Hi, I'm Dr. Christina Hallett. These have been difficult times, and what I love to work with people on is managing stress and resilience, building the skill of resilience. Now, I know that this is information that you are familiar with. I know you teach this to students and peers and audiences and clients all the time. But I also know that as people who work within mental health and in medical settings, and just as humans who live in the world, we're often not so good at putting into practice exactly what it is that we know is best to do. So I wanted to share with you a conceptualization today that I think will be helpful and that hopefully will begin to make a difference in how you're handling things. What you're seeing here is what I think we need to do in terms of managing stress. We need to flatten the curve. We've gotten so used to thinking about that as we've dealt with coronavirus and, frankly, the global pandemic. And so this has truly become a part of our regular lexicon. But when we think about stress and resilience, we can flatten the curve as well. So here's a little picture that will illustrate what I'm talking about. This is a COVID-19 conceptualization on how we flatten the curve. As you can see, when we start here, if we didn't do any intervention, we have a really high peak. If, in fact, we begin to do some intervention, we can get a lower peak, and then ultimately we can reduce the peak even more. How do we do that? That is exactly what we were looking to do. And when we think about stress, we can do the same thing. What's the magic in this? It is to stop, breathe, and then proceed. Now, I am certain that you hear a lot about breathing and that you talk a lot about breathing. But let's be honest, how often are you using this in your practice? I know that I still need reminders all the time, and I'm betting that you do too. But let's think of this in terms of the stress curve and flattening our stress curve with this particular intervention. So it's really all about the timing. This is my version of a stress curve. And as you can see, if we wait until we're at the peak of our stress before we try to intervene and breathe, it takes us an awful lot longer to begin to relax and settle down. If we intervene halfway up, when we're starting to feel that agitation, then obviously we have a quicker and more immediate resolution of our stress. But, and here's the most important piece, when we start as early as possible and we maintain this practice, then our curve is as flat as possible. And that's really what we're looking to do, correct? What we want to do is have the least amount of stress that we're experiencing so that we can stay in resilience. And we literally do that by remembering and integrating a breathing practice into our regular life. Now, perhaps you do. Perhaps you meditate, perhaps you journal, perhaps you're following all of those fabulous self-care things that we talk about. And if so, that's fantastic. I am delighted. But I know that the more stressed we are, the less likely we are to actually use the strategies that are going to help us the most, even though we're spending time doing it. It's more of a do as I say, not as I do kind of mentality. And that's something that we actually want to be able to manage. So this is really all about building our resilience muscles. And what are the best ways that we can do this? Well, of course, you know, as I know, that we need to eat as well as we can, sleep as well as we can, move our body, and then do that breathing. And while I know you know this, really my question for you is, are you implementing it? Because I know that I need this reminder, and it's so clear to me that many of my fellow professionals need this reminder too. That's okay, because first and foremost, we're human. Now, the other piece to this is growth mindset. Hopefully you're already familiar with this, but the concept as we're dealing with times of unprecedented stress, of treating failure as in fact a learning opportunity and understanding a focus on effort rather than on some limited version of success, well, that really begins to build our resilience muscles. And I know that this is something that helps all of us. So if you think about this idea that even when you're frustrated, you persevere while allowing yourself to learn from what's going on, and that failure equals learning. That makes such a difference. And it truly begins to transform so that we're starting to allow ourselves the opportunity for that rest period that we need so badly. Because self-care is really where it's at, isn't it? The components of self-care that I, in this brief video, want to make sure that you're following are gratitude. And I don't mean just making that pro forma list of, oh, I'm grateful that I have a house and I have a dog and I have a job. Look, if you're just listing it off, you're not going to get the benefits of gratitude. How do we get the actual benefits of gratitude? Through the experience of gratitude. Through taking that breath and allowing ourselves to actually feel gratitude. And why do we want it? Well, it's right here on the screen. It helps us to be more forgiving, to feel less isolated. We actually are more open to optimism. And our body doesn't feel the effects of stress as much. We've got fewer aches and pains, we have better sleep, and our immune system is stronger. There's all the benefits of gratitude, but it really comes from actually feeling gratitude and not just saying the words. Again, we need to really walk our talk where this comes in. Now, if things have been really difficult and your resilience muscle is feeling a little strained right now, that's okay. What you can do as sort of a backdoor into gratitude is think about awe, AWE, the kind of feeling that you get when you look at a gorgeous sunrise or when you see clouds over a mountain peak. Maybe for you, it's the ocean or the forest. Chances are that awe will come from nature. And there's so many benefits to nature, we already know that. So think about, where can you see something? Is it in your own environment? Or hey, that's what Google's for. Look up and find some pictures that when you look at them, you go, right, that feeling of awe. And notice when we do that, we're actually taking in that deeper breath, right? We're connecting what we're seeing with what we're feeling, and we're allowing our limbic system to calm down. So that practice of gratitude, the back door is in through awe. And what you can do is you can have it everywhere, those pictures. So I actually have on my phone, I have oops, you can't see it, so I won't show you, but I've got a picture of daisies as a screen lock, and I have a gorgeous picture of a nearby fall leaves that are reflected in the water. Both of those are things that I look at anytime I pick up my phone because I see them. And that gives me just that very quick moment of both awe and leads into gratitude. Now, the other piece, and hopefully you've been following the research of Dr. Kristin Neff, but really it's the idea of self-compassion. Again, this is often something that we're sharing or teaching to our clients or students, but again, it doesn't always end up as one of our top practices. So if you're looking in the self-care realm, aside from the basic building blocks of eating well, sleeping well, moving your body and breathing, we want to bring in gratitude and self-compassion. So the research says that self-compassion has three components: common humanity, understanding, guess what? Even as a mental health professional, I'm a human just like you. Kindness, treating ourselves with the same kindness that we treat someone else that we love and care for. That's super important. And often that's not something we're doing, particularly with our thoughts. And then mindfulness, right? Being aware in the present moment without judgment. Brené Brown had a conversation with Kristin Neff, and as they were talking about mindfulness, Brené Brown said, I don't know about that word mindfulness. So she sort of redefined it, which I love, as courageous presence. You can share that for yourself or with your clients or students or colleagues, because I think that captures it well, right? It does take some courage to be present in the moment, particularly if we're going to do it without judgment. So this idea of treating yourself like a human who doesn't do it all right, who absolutely does get impacted by what's going on in the world around us, who treats themselves the same fabulously compassionate and kind way that we treat others that we care about, and is being willing to pull out the judgment. So as a final component of this, I'd like you to consider my practice of bold self-compassion. What's bold? You can see it right on the screen. That B is for breathe. How many different times can I say to breathe? I am going to say this till you remember it. Oh, owning your feelings. That comes from really recognizing, oh, yeah, I'm having a hard time. It's okay. Remember, common humanity. You get to do that. And then L, letting go of negative self talk. That's where self compassion truly comes in and letting yourself not give yourself a hard time. You teach your clients and students and colleagues not to do that. It's time to get on board. And then finally, D, do something kind for yourself. Now, this doesn't have to be a big deal. I'm not saying you need to go out and buy a Ferrari or something like that. How about you make certain that you take time for lunch today? Wouldn't that be great? That you actually do a 5-minute stretch break in between appointments or meetings. Those kinds of small actions of being kind to yourself, they really will make all the difference in the world. Finally, I just wanted to share with you a couple of really helpful apps that I know. These are all free, and I recommend them not only to clients and to my students, but I use them as well. My very favorite, I think, is Breathe to Relax because it's got that multi-sensory approach in terms of it not only guides you through breathing, but you can pick the background, the speed of the inhale and the exhale, and best of all, there's a little container that fills as you breathe in and empties as you breathe out. So it's really nice to help regulate. Now, Calm, if you're really looking for some meditation, is fabulous. I'd like to mention Mindfulness Coach if you can really use some help with practicing mindfulness. And don't forget Think Up. This is an app that's really very interesting. It's got thousands of potential affirmations that you could choose to use, or you can just make up your own. But what it lets you do is record 3 affirmations with some background music, and then you get to play it back. It's your voice saying the affirmations that matter to you. And we all know that's a really great way to help us actually listen to what it is that we're trying to say to ourselves, right? So we get it both from the outside to prompt our inner thinking. I hope that even though this is short, there's something that you can take away from this because you know what? You deserve, absolutely deserve, simply because you're a living, breathing human being, to feel better and to have some support in building up those resilience muscles. The work you do is so important. It impacts people every single day. So let's make sure that you're at your best. I've enjoyed speaking with you, and let's keep practicing gratitude and bold self-compassion and breathing, of course. Have a great day.